It's showtime, folks.
The next Democrat president of the United States must be impeached. Not to get even. One party can't be allowed to abuse the Constitution yet wave it around while the other party sits there and takes it. The next Democrat president, if they vote for impeachment against President Donald Trump, must be impeached. And we have the blueprint.
You're 8 days into your Russian collusion with the Trump campaign investigation, and you got another text from your colleague, Lisa Page. Trump's not ever going to become president, right? Right? And you replied, no, he's not. We'll stop it. By the time you promised to stop him from becoming president on August the 8th, how many interviews had you conducted?
Sir, I think it's important to take those texts in the context of how they were written and what they meant.
And someone may ask you that question, Agent Strzok, but I didn't. Here's what I want to know. Who's the he and he's not?
He is then candidate Trump.
I want to know what it meant, Agent Strzok.
It would be his candidacy for the presidency, and my sense that the American population is trying to cut to the chase and explain the text.
The will is the American people. Is that right? That's your testimony. The will stop it. You were speaking on behalf of the American people. Is that correct?
What about the text message that in which you and Strzok were talking about your sort of fear that Trump would be elected, and he said, no, we won't let it happen?
I mean, by we, he's talking about the collective we. Like-minded, thoughtful, sensible people who were not going to vote this person into office.
You were concerned that those same American people that you were speaking on behalf of might actually elect Donald Trump president. So you said, OMG, this is effing terrifying. What was terrifying about those same American people you trusted to stop him in August, not stopping him in November?
Mr. Gowdy, what I would say in that is, one, I was not referring to the American electorate at all.
We, the democratic people of this country, are not going to let it happen.
I was not referring to the American electorate at all. The American electorate I respect in their decisions, and their right to vote is absolutely a cornerstone of our democracy.
He's not going to be president. We, the democratic people of this country, are not going to let it happen.
I was not referring to the American electorate at all. The American electorate I respect.
Democratic people of this country are not going to let it happen.
It's showtime. This day. And so I wanted to shine a light on that.
There's no denying that your role in this investigation and your role in the Donald Trump Russia saga has definitely been marred by, text messages that the public has seen of yours, your opinions on Hillary Clinton, and your opinions on Donald Trump. Do you think that you're the right person to say to the public, here I am shining a light, when Donald Trump will use you as the example of the deep state?
Every FBI agent, most every government employee has opinions. I have them. Everybody I've worked with did. And we talk about those in private. The point is that every single day, all of us set that aside when we go to work. Because this has been looked at up and down and left and right. There have been 2 Inspector General investigations. There have been multiple U.S. attorneys, all kinds of congressional committees looking at it. And all of them have found at the end of the day that me and everybody else, that our actions were free of political bias.
Peter Strzok, maybe the most famous partisan FBI agent in modern history.
That me and everybody else, that our actions were free of political bias or any sort of improper consideration.
The FBI has fired Peter Strzok. He was the agent who was removed from the Russia investigation last year after he sent text messages disparaging President Donald Trump.
Because this has been looked at up and down and left and right. There have been 2 Inspector General investigations, and all of them have found at the end of the day that me and everybody else, that our actions were free of political bias.
The Inspector General disagreed when he asked you about the insurance policy text, the will stop it text. You provided an explanation similar that you did today, and he found your explanation to be unpersuasive, and you're aware of that, correct?
I'm not aware of that with regard to that text.
Persuasive or credible how they explained that text message?
It wasn't persuasive to us.
It was, totally not at all. He also said that your explanation for how you handled the Anthony Weiner laptop You delayed, you didn't take action initially. He said your explanation for that, and he did note that in the report, was not persuasive. You're aware of that, correct?
Sir, I'm aware of facts rebutting that he has, rebutting that specific.
With the Wiener laptop issue, I think that you had said Peter Strzok's explanation for his conduct was not really persuasive.
Correct.
And so it would be reasonable for somebody to infer that his actions, at least with the Wiener thing, were motivated by his bias?
And that was precisely our concern.
Okay.
Me and everybody else, that our actions were free of political bias.
Also know that Rod Rosenstein on June 28th, when he testified in front of this committee, he said you were biased. Are you aware of that?
I'm
in
not
response
aware of that.
to my questions? Yes, he did. Horowitz said his bias is an appropriate explanation for his conduct. Do you agree?
I certainly agree with the findings of the Inspector General report, and I think those messages clearly do indicate bias.
This has been looked at up and down and left and right.
Inspector Horowitz, in your report and now in your testimony, you said that you are deeply troubled and very concerned that the anti-Trump bias reflected in the Strzok page text messages was so great as to have possibly impacted Peter Strzok's conduct in the Wiener laptop part of the Hillary Clinton investigation. Is that fair?
Correct.
I do understand how it may look to somebody, especially a Trump voter, when Peter Strzok has emails saying we need to stop this person, and an FBI lawyer was found to be doctoring documents. Once somebody is forging a document to go with their bias, I mean, that shows you that people don't just leave their opinions at the door, doesn't it?
Right, but when you look at what happened to him, I mean, he is paying a severe, severe price for his penalty. There is no room in the FBI ever for any falsehood, for any doctoring evidence.
Well, a former FBI lawyer gets a slap on the wrist after pleading guilty in John Durham's FISA abuse probe.
I mean, he is paying a severe, severe price for his penalty.
Kevin Kleinsmith was sentenced to 12 months probation and ordered to perform 400 hours of community service. The punishment was significantly lighter than 6 months prison time by special counsel Durham had recommended.
He is paying a severe, severe price for his penalty. There is no room in the FBI ever for any falsehood, for any doctoring evidence. And when you do that, you're going to be held accountable.
So Kleinsmith, here, he pled guilty. He did something very wrong. It's not just that he misspoke to the FBI during an investigation. He altered documents to spy on an American citizen, and he did it knowingly. So what's his punishment? Oops, a little slap on the wrist. Too bad, don't do that again.
They have subtle dog whistles to these kind of pro-Trump conspiracy theorists. Statements like, the FBI's investigation of the Trump campaign relied on certain things. Well, there was never an FBI investigation of the Trump campaign. It was never an FBI investigation of the Trump campaign.
It was never an FBI investigation of the Trump campaign.
The FBI reportedly spent several months investigating Russia's potential meddling in the U.S. election and found no direct link to Donald Trump.
FBI Director James Comey has confirmed there's an investigation into links between Russia and Donald Trump's presidential campaign.
And, you can talk all you want about Russia, which was all a, fake news fabricated deal to try and make up for the loss of the Democrats, and the press plays right into it.
It was never an FBI investigation of the Trump campaign.
Now, incontrovertible fact that the FBI is investigating the possibility of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians.
The New York Times report said the FBI concluded that Russia was far more interested in disrupting the American political process than in aiding Trump. But a new report from the New York Times reveals the FBI spent much of the summer looking into possible direct links between Trump, his campaign staff, and Russia. The Bureau uncovered no evidence.
There was never an FBI investigation of the Trump campaign, unless you listen to some, kind of far extreme right commentators or folks in Congress who assert that there was, but that's nonsense.
Are you stupid?
It's showtime, folks.